Lived over.
Well, no, with the keeping track of it, and I like
For sure. That's already. I think my understanding is
So
that
crazy. I
when it
figured this one out. It's like.
when it would come into the city, it's annexed property, it would revert to R1, and then it would need to be rezoned to B2 again. That's my understanding.
Pretty sure
Check on that.
that agreement.
The thing is that as soon as annexation occurs, they revert to R1.
Yeah.
And then it has to be rezoned to the future land use map, which would be that.
Consistent with this.
Consistent with that. It's a bigger crowd.
We're not enough for you.
Yeah, well, it depends on how excited you are.
Well, it goes quicker this way.
Yeah, it does.
Patience. Yeah. 2 minutes.
Yeah, we got a little bit of,
All right.
we got a little bit of time, Grant. Step away for a second too.
No, I went right from work to the soccer game.
Wow.
And then from the soccer game, I had to leave early and he was playing on the field and I'm like watching and I'm like looking at what Google Maps tells me it's gonna take to get here and what is traffic doing? So going from that to here quick.
She had to drive behind me for a little while.
But you were driving the speed limit, right?
I was a little bit as well.
Yeah.
I can't deny or claim that she was gaining on me.
Confirm nor deny.
No matter what the sign says, right?
Who's behind me? You gotta see.
Right. Well, let's say our 2-minute break is over. And with that, we're gonna move forward with our next public hearing for the evening. And with that, it is 7:37 and I will open our continuance of our August 18th, 2025 public hearing, updating the existing and introducing our new zoning ordinances and zoning map for the city of Orinoco. We did have a public hearing last month, but I am just going to reopen it again. If there's anyone present that would like to speak for or against. This is on the zoning changes. If there is anyone present that would like to speak for or against the zoning changes.
Madam Chair, excuse me, I am online and I would like to speak.
Okay, if you could just state your name and address.
Certainly. My name is Joy Bertzinger. I'm a resident of Orinoco. I prefer not to give my address in light of all the recent turmoil and angst against people who speak.
We are aware of that and also know that where you live in town here, so that is fine for public record to not officially put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. So my first question would be, did the Planning and Zoning Commissioners read my September 5th letter? Did you receive that?
We received, and that's the one that we've all got copies of here in front of us. We've
Then I
got-
just, okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note again that I have the concern that single-family lots and houses and the minimal square feet are larger in R2, which is supposed to be more dense development than they are in R1. And my concern is that that does not seem appropriate, especially since the last public hearing, there were notes of concern that R1 wanted to improve that lot size to 12,000. so that I would suggest that the council switch the lot size and the square foot minimal size between R1 and R2. My other concern again is the professional standards. It is a new standard for the city of Orinoco to have the landscaping. I'm not opposed to having landscaping. I love green space. I love trees, but I have concerns with the wording of an overstory trees being required on private lots in the front lot. Overstory trees are the largest trees in a forest. I'm asking why that language could not be, say, ornamental trees or some type of landscaping plant. If you've taken the time to drive around Orinoco, you may see few lots that have those large of trees in their front yards. And especially if you're reducing the minimal required lot size, that will even give you less front yard space. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work that you do as a planning commission. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
Is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against zoning ordinance changes? You could state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Jeff Geske here with my lovely wife and Grace. And we submitted a letter. It was just, first of all, also just making sure that that went through. But would just express some concerns with a wide ranging change to R1 down to 10,000 square feet. I think there are a number of issues with that across the city. Whether it is first responders, whether it is the density that would contribute to school zone concerns, whether it is traffic and noise, whether it's lack of environmental kind of surveys having been done to see what that would do to our wildlife. I think that there are just a large number of things, and to me, this would have potential to change the main appeal of Orinoco, which is kind of going back, and I cited it in my letter, to not actually turn into Rochester, but to be distinct from that. So I would just urge you to consider that the current zoning changes, having a single R1 that brings all lots down to 10,000 square feet, will likely result in much greater housing density than we I think should have. I think that maybe different levels of single family zoning is needed. And I would encourage you to not support the current plan. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Is there anyone else present that would like to speak for or against the zoning change? This again is the public hearing. It's the continuance from last month of the updating of the existing and introduction of our new zoning ordinance, zoning map for the city of Orinoco. I'll just throw it out there one last time. Anyone present that would like to speak for or against the change? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. So we've got some comments that we had last month. We have gotten a few more comments since that time. Lori, I believe you're online here as well.
Yes, I am. And there was one additional comment that you received on growingorinoco.com since the last meeting. And there was no name attached to this, but the comment was in regard to the size of trees on single family lots. It says, if this applies to single family lots, there are new builds. These sizes of trees are too big. This could cost a home builder thousands in landscaping, pushing people over budget and forcing them to lower quality of amenities in the home. This could also lead to new developments loaded up with the same trees, whatever is cheapest. And that's the only comment that we received.
Okay.
That was me. Again, making notes on that. This is me. Thank you. I was going to address.
Was that a test?
We passed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we can get there when we get there. So,
Tonight, what I'm hearing is we've got one that we did talk about last month, which was the lot size of 10,000, and we did request last month that we take a look at increasing that lot size for the R1. And I wrote down two different numbers. I wrote down a 12,000 and I wrote down a 14,000 on my notes, but I believe
That's in there as a 12. Yeah.
so I think we have a couple of potentially good options for something like this, is we could look at increasing the lot size, but we could also incorporate the step down buffer that was suggested, and keep the 10,000 square feet, but require, say, a 40% step down from current R1 homes that are already built, whether it's in the front or the backyard. And so that would require a developer to, if there were 1 acre lots across the street, to step down to 0.4 acres and then step down, and then they could get into the 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. And that'd
be for new development.
be for new homes being developed, yeah. But it would strictly be for the R1. So a new development would need to take into consideration the homes that are already currently surrounding.
So if a developer buys a large parcel of land, they can use the new 10,000, but anything fringing and ringing around it would have to be larger lots
Yeah, or seek variance.
or seek a variance.
That's one, I think, option to be able to get to the density of 10,000 square foot lots, but also not impose onto homeowners who bought large lots, who expected large lots. And I think there's many areas in Orinoco, if you look at the map, that could be affected by a new development in the future that goes from a 2 acre lot straight to a 10,000 square foot lot. There's quite a few developments that would be affected by that.
So you'd prefer the step down, keep it
And
at
what
10
was
with
the
the
percentage?
step down?
I said 40%, but that's just to get,
So what
basically
that
it
would
would be
do,
two roads from a
14, if you look, I believe, a 10,000 square foot lot versus a 14,000 square foot lot, that would be your 40%. Am I doing the math right? Just scribbling numbers here, so.
I think some of the comments we heard last meeting though too was, because this, Daniel, I see what you're saying is kind of a in between, but one of the things we heard last time was both were unappealing to some of the people that were here, because having.
Any development's
having-
gonna have to come through here anyway.
Or
And
having a
I
step
don't know
down.
if I'd put it in to the code when we've already got the code saying the developments are gonna come here. They're all gonna have to show up, and just like the other one that came through, the community was here, we had public hearings. They did listen. The first time it got denied, they listened, they made some changes, and the second time they did do that. The larger lots on the outside, so that did work.
Yeah.
So.
but they won't have to come here if it's,
No, if it's a developer doing the flex zone, they're gonna have to still come through to do a development here.
well, a flex zone, they would have to,
That's what the developer would use.
in an R1 zoned area,
Mhm.
Yeah,
they would have to use.
Madam Chair, if somebody were to come in and develop an R1 zoned area and they had lot sizes and they just wanted to do a plat and their lot sizes met your minimum requirements, they don't need to do a rezoning to development flex. As development flex is used when they can't meet zoning requirements that are already
Okay, so-
established.
so we would need to do that then.
Yeah,
So.
Now, if you're thinking about doing transitional zoning, you're going to need to think about dimensions. Like, are you going to just put a line in your R1 standards that says if you're adjacent to an R1 zoning district, um, uh, within a certain distance of that property line adjacent to that district, your lot sizes have to be a certain size? Because typically when you do transitional zoning, you're doing that through rezonings. It's not necessarily a standard, it's through your comp plan and it's through new zoning districts. And I, 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 I think, like Kathy says, if somebody comes in and wants to do smaller lots, they can use the DF, which accomplishes that anyway. That's that give and take we're talking about, where you get them to do the smaller lots on the outside.
So, and when I wrote my notes down last month, one of the suggestions was to take that R1 10,000 and just bump it up. So you can't take somebody that has your 20,000 square foot today and cut it in half. And if we were to bump it up, to me, I think that's very reasonable to bump that up, because otherwise all these lots out there right now could just be chopped up.
That's where the 12 would fit in.
But if you've got a larger lot to begin with, and we definitely have folks out there that have had their own septic systems for years that have very huge lots, and the streets would certainly accommodate more driveways, it makes sense to, maybe we don't go with the 10,000, but we would go with something larger, like that 12,000 that we talked about, or even a 14 I could go and see. And
No,
that would be larger than some of these surrounding towns when you talk about what is the look and feel of Orinoco.
Sure. So I just wanted to bring that step down back
I think
for
it's done.
conversation.
I think that's good.
As opposed to develop flex. Yes, I think there might be some, it's hard to figure out what it needs to say, right? But that, I just wanted to bring that in for discussion.
I think that was a good idea. You
Yeah, and
know,
I don't know that we wanna piecemeal the city with DF zones either. So I could see where that would be super useful to come in and say, you know, I want these lots to be this size, these lots, and so you have to go to DF. But R1, if it says 10,000 or 12,000, they don't come to us to put those in.
Madam Chair, I would add one other thing too, that you have to keep in mind that your comp plan is also guiding these discussions. So it's not like somebody can use development flex to come in and put an apartment building in the middle of a R1 zoning in an R1 area, because your comp plan doesn't allow that. So, I mean, and you have a lot of discretion when it comes to comp plan amendments and rezonings.
And that's probably the next project we'd take on. Looking at maps.
And it's actually not a bad thing for those developers to come here. You know, to have that, you know, it's to try to bypass this committee, which is sometimes what I feel is being done, is not a positive thing. We're all working together for the same city, to have the same city look and be the way it should be. You know, and so that's where I think that this is so important to have this committee and to be actively involved in what's going on. You know, so.
So the question I think right now is, we do have a draft out here. We've been working on it for a while. I know last month, I believe we asked you to look, I'm gonna go with the 12,000 number. I don't recall from my notes here which one I had written down.
And that's what's in here too.
Was the 12.
Yeah.
And so right now, to move this forward to council so that they can, because we're again just advisory, it has to go to council and they can approve, deny, and even change it there as well. Do we want to leave it at the old 10 or the 12,000 we talked about next month? Or do we want to change it either to 14 or do we want to do this step down language to insert into R1?
I think those are two different things that you're looking at.
So
okay? So I make a motion that we up the minimum lot size to 12,000.
So you'd approve it, but to send to council, but with a 12,000 minimum lot size, but no step down at this
No,
point.
where those are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at
I'll
this like
second the increase to 12,000.
12,000.
Do we need to do this in one big?
I think we're gonna do it all in one big, so maybe what I'll have you do is withdraw your motions and I'll just keep track of what we're saying right now is it would be a 12,000
Okay, I'll withdraw that.
minimum lot size.
We're back.
So that would be the
Yeah.
first change, so it would be approval with whatever changes we come up with, so 12,000 minimum lot size.
And then what she wrote down with WSB on page 5, okay, is looking exactly what you had talked about, Daniel, off of that, which is looking at the transitional zoning, okay, gradual change from one zoning classification to another. Or are you looking at just within one?
Yeah, it would be R1 to R1 only.
Yeah, so I'm just, okay, because I think that that
So-
step down is important. Lori, do you have other communities that do that?
No, I don't. It's not super common to do that. Like I said, transitional zoning is generally implemented by creating new zoning districts for specific areas in the city that are a mixed use zoning district that allow for the smaller lot sizes. So, I mean, we certainly could craft some language to insert into the R1 zoning district, but it sounds like I mean, if you're looking to increase the lot size and then also do transitional zoning, maybe you just want to look at even increasing it more.
Do we just say 14,000 instead of 12? Cause that is your 40%
Mhm.
or 20%, 20, 40.
Yeah, I'm open for a little.
So instead of-
Then.
That's fine.
You just over a quarter of an acre, you're 0.308. If you go to 14,000.
So instead
that-
of 12, do we set up?
that's
a nice size lot.
That's a nice size lot.
Transitional.
You okay
I
with the
think-
14, Daniel?
I'm okay with a 14. I think that,
Right.
the
If you go
trend,
14, why don't you just split the difference and go 15?
Well, then why don't we go to 20? You know, what I mean, it's just, where do you stop?
Where do you end?
Well,
It's gotta
Started
be
at 10.
feasible for a developer to want to develop here.
Yeah.
At some point, again, it's not going to be.
Well, and we will have different developments that do have different looks and feels, and when you start doing that, it makes it more feasible to put in sidewalks too. I mean, some of those different features.
it's the way I'm looking at it is our current R1 standard going to this new R1 standard, whether it be 10,000 or 14,000, is almost like a completely new zone, even though it's still R1. The standards are extremely different, and that's why,
And-
in my mind, transitional, a step down between the old and the new makes sense in my mind.
Difference though, in the old R1, you had to have the larger sizes because you had your septic, you had a well, you had all of these other things that had, and that's part of what we're transitioning to as a city, which is why we took all this on to begin with.
Yeah.
Because we knew the old 20,000 was not what we needed to do anymore.
Yeah.
Do we have a lot of areas of the town that are in these larger zones? Because historically that was required in order to actually put a house in,
Yeah.
because you had to put all those services in. So we can go a little smaller and still retain. Now, do we have to go down to 10? I think we can still retain. You said we're at 0.3 acre
0.308.
if we're at
The fourth.
14,000. I think that's,
That's a nice size city.
That's a
lot.
really
that's a
lot.
good
Yeah.
size
I
lot,
think
yeah.
a lot.
And there will still be areas of town where you've got people that have 2 and 4 acres that could conceivably split their lot. I mean, so you still potentially have some larger ones from people who have the old acreage out there because they had to have the septic field. So I see 14,000 as reasonable and not having to do
Not
all
having
the
the
transition. And it's gonna be easier for our folks that live in town here, if you have that multiple acres and wanna split off a lot, you can measure that.
I'm okay with it.
14? Good?
Yeah.
The next one we heard about was help me, overstory trees. So that would be your oaks, your maples, your taller trees. Ultimately, they get taller, but when you're first planting them, they're not necessarily $1,000 trees. What it would require, my understanding is
The trees.
the trees.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything further you can give us on the tree conversation there, Lori, but is that correct? My understanding of overstory trees, we're asking people that if you're building a house, you'd have to put in one of these types of trees in your front yard.
So my
Yeah.
comment, just,
Yeah.
sorry, Lori, if you, when I read it, it to me was saying a maple, one of each, right? Not one or.
No, it's just one overstory tree in the front yard.
Of one of those types, correct?
And
Let me pull that up. Hang on just a second.
Because the way that I read it required, I just did the math on my lot. If I were to build my house with this, it would require me to put in 14 trees with caliper of 2.5 inches. So after buying those trees and buying that type size of trees, you pretty much have to have somebody plant that tree for you with the root ball, right? So you just doubled the cost of the tree. That's for my property alone would be a minimum of $8,000 to $10,000 in trees. If I was building a house, that would prevent me from finishing the deck or rolling the patio in or adding the third stall garage, which ultimately is going to increase the property value of the house, or those, in my opinion, more important things than having a 2.5 inch caliper tree. I love the idea of getting trees and having all that in there, but I think we have to look at.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to
Go ahead.
interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I, I I think you're not reading that correctly, Commissioner. What we're saying is if you're building a new house, you have to put one tree in the front yard and then one other tree on your lot somewhere else. So two
Okay.
trees.
But where did I read that it was the circumference of the lot per 100 feet of the
That's for
lot?
commercial. That's for commercial.
Okay,
So if somebody puts in a commercial building, those are the commercial standards.
okay.
And we want them to put.
We want it to be that way.
Yeah. And so the purpose of having a tree in the front yard is simply to reforest your community after trees come down over time and to provide shade.
And I don't
But you
want
can do whatever you want.
10 years that has a development that went in 10 years ago and
No
there's no
trees.
trees.
Right. But sorry, but the way that I had read it was an overstory plus an evergreen plus
No,
ornament. That's the way
that's
that,
not correct.
okay.
Yeah.
That's, I appreciate you
Yeah,
straight.
that's so in your R1 and all your residential standards, you have in R1 it's number 14. And it says each lot shall contain, this is for residential, each lot shall contain one front yard tree, meeting minimum size requirements, and one additional tree shall be planted in side yards on corner lots. So on most lots, if you're not a corner yard, you're just planting one tree on your lot. That's required. You can, of course, plant more, but we're only requiring one tree. But if you're on a corner lot and it's trying to create shade in front yards and for roadways.
Mhm.
No, and I
So-
appreciate that, and thank you for straightening that
Yeah.
out, because that was, so the performance standards then that I was just talking about in the second to last, that's only commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
And it says that in the first sentence of that.
Yeah, my
that
eyes were
chapter.
glancing by the time I got all the way
Yeah.
down.
It's
So,
There's a
it's
lot.
not super exciting stuff.
All right. So overstory trees, we have heard, some comments out there as well. I mean, there's pros and cons. One is it's cheaper to build if you don't have to go out and buy. And I did Google just now, I will admit, oak tree, 2.5 inch was $279. I don't know if it's on sale or not, but figure it.
That's not too expensive at all.
Now, you probably have to have somebody maybe come out and plant these possibly, but there, you've already got people coming out to do all your other stuff as well as your building.
My concern was when I misread it too, looking at having to put $10,000 in trees on a lot and.
Well, I mean, if you look at what.
For a new home.
But PG Market, if you look at it, the way the trees are commercially around there are pretty nice what they
Yes,
put in.
no, I agree.
And
did a good
if
job.
that's the direction you're going, I think that's gonna be very nice for what there is in the city.
And it does, it'll start to really make the community look sharp.
But sure, yeah.
So the overstory designation, it's not saying when you plant it, it has to be overstory. It's that it will
The
eventually grow.
species is in that
Species.
category.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, so you have a definition of overstory tree in the definitions that explains what that is.
Okay.
But you could say if you just one tree of either ornamental or overstory or conifer. I mean,
think
if
the
you'd rather
searchable
change it to that.
document- I think the searchable large document will help.
Yeah.
Clarify a lot of that stuff, so. Appreciate the conversation,
It's a lot.
yes.
Everybody last year and a half, feels like it's taken a while, but
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of pages, lots of meetings, many hours of reading from some of our folks that volunteered from town here on the steering committee, as well as folks on planning and zoning. Again, we all have day jobs, so I appreciate all the extra reading and work that people are putting in on this. So 14,000, the tree language can stay as is, or does
understand
anybody
that.
have a suggestion?
Good.
Yeah, no, clarifications are all good. That's why we're here, and that's why we're on continuing this public hearing to make sure what we can send to council is as good as we can do with what we've got. Going back to what we had there, so from last month, we talked about the 12,000.
And thank you for the chart, Lori.
Sure.
Any other changes, conversation?
So I would like to talk about the R2,
Okay,
the minimum lot size in R2. And Lori, feel free to weigh in on this, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it would be appropriate to, if we have single family homes in the R2, that those would, as a single family, require a smaller lot size in the R2, say 10,000 square feet there, while still maintaining the 14,000 square foot minimum for anything over one unit, including if somebody wanted to add on like a mother-in-law suite, post build, or additional dwelling unit, something along those lines. Is it uncommon to single family homes in that R2 section and say, you know, if it's a single family home, the standards for the lot size can be a little bit smaller?
I think that's very reasonable. It's not that uncommon to do that. So that is something that you could make a motion on, or include in your motion, I should say.
R2, what I'm hearing is 10,000 if it's a single
Single
family.
family.
And then if it's a multifamily, you said
Stay at the 14.
be at 14.
I think that's what it says in here, but it would stay.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yes.
says.
So it would just add one more under R2, you could do 10
Yes.
for single family. Okay.
And I do think that I was listening on the meeting when we discussed R2, but do you guys remember or recall why the single family was higher for R2 over R1? I remember there being a discussion, I just don't remember
was
the
a-
exact reasoning, because there was a reason given at the time.
And it made sense.
It made sense at the time.
Lori's looking.
Yeah,
Cause there was discussion. I think that was the one that I was just a fly on the wall at though, so. Probably just had earbuds in, but either way, but I think that. Anything over one would still require that 14,000, so somebody building a single family home could not add. Or split into a duplex like afterwards to turn into 2 rentals. You couldn't add the additional mother-in-law suite on there.
Unless you had at least 14,000.
Unless you had at
Or
least
came in for a
14,
variance.
or came in for a variance, yes. I think that that's reasonable.
So if I'm writing this down right, for R2, you would make the change in the hundreds of pages of code to have 10,000 as a single family minimum lot size and 14,000 if it was 2+ multifamily,
Yes.
however we want to word that.
Multifamily,
Multifamily.
1.1 plus, whatever you want to say.
14,000, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And I could argue even in R2 going lower than that 10,000, and that could be a discussion. Otherwise, I'm good with 10. I think 10 is.
If somebody else wanted to do that, they could still come in for the variance to be
I
able to
think
do
10
that.
is reasonable.
Okay.
I think you're fine with that.
Chair, I would also mention, as Commissioner Spring talked about, you could also change the size of the single family dwelling, the minimum finished floor area to match that of R1 if you're gonna change the lot size. I mean, that's reasonable.
So what would that be?
So right now for R2, without a basement, it's 1240 square feet, and with a basement, it's 1040. And then if you were to go to the R1, it would be without basement 1,000 and with basement 900.
So I think that this conversation, I do remember, is why we went larger for the floor plan, as we envisioned people who are going to be building homes in the R2 as a single family were more than likely going to be like on slab, or they were going to be single story ranches to where having
Patio
that
homes, seniors,
patio home, so
or smaller families.
yeah, but having that larger footprint on that made sense, where when you go onto a 14,000 square foot lot, you're more than likely going to start getting into multi-level homes with basements and potentially, so like that's where our discussion was, or the discussion was with that and the difference in that. And so I'd still be okay with keeping it written as is.
So the minimum floor area would not change in the R2?
Yeah, I would be fine with leaving it, but I'm open for discussion still.
Well, I think that let's leave it with where it's at, and if somebody wants to come in with a variance to do it, then they can come in with a variance to be able.
So at this point then, I've got the last one on our list, at least on my list, was sidewalks. We had some discussion on sidewalks and requiring or not requiring. Historically, the lots have all been big. We all know we had septic fields. You don't want to put in a sidewalk going past a septic field. Very expensive and really doesn't serve the purpose.
This would be for new.
But we could say for new ones.
yeah.
Go and retrofit it.
So I don't know if you've got any extra discussion on that one, Lori, that you can contribute.
Yeah, as I stated in my memo that I sent out to you all, sidewalks are already required in the new zoning ordinance and the subdivision section.
So we need.
On one side of the street.
Yep. Okay. So, let me just give you the list of what I got tracking changes. So it would be a motion we could make would have send this to council for approval with the following changes. R1, the minimum would change to 14,000. R2, the minimums would change to 10,000 for a single family, 14,000 if it was multifamily. We would not be putting in any changes related to the floor area, no changes related to trees, no changes related to step down, and no changes related to sidewalks. because it's being addressed.
So I agree with all those, and I would like to discuss just completely removing the developmental flex zone and let council decide and get, or if Lori, if you want to continue that conversation to where the DF zone would benefit the city, because my concern is as we're discussing this, we understand it, council understands it as it's approved, but 10 years from now, 15 years from now, new council, maybe a new, city staff who are doing this don't understand it the way that it is. And then we end up with stuff that we don't want and we don't want it utilized in the city. So that's my only thought, is to take that under further review as an entire section.
So Chair and Commission, I mean, you could do that, but then you're not allowing any new development other than what your zoning ordinance allows. Because right now you have a PUD option in your ordinance that does essentially the same thing. So, I would not recommend that you remove that entirely. If you want to look at a PUD ordinance, you could do that. But the goal of this DF Development Flex zoning district, it does the exact same thing a PUD would do, which is in your ordinance now. It's just worded differently, and it's just a simpler process for your staff and for your council to understand. But I mean, if there's still qualms about it, certainly, I mean, that's your prerogative to take that out. But then you're left with a zoning ordinance that doesn't accommodate any new development that doesn't fit within a certain box. So
one of the questions I have, so we've got our contract. Once this is through, we've also got training included in our contract for staff, for planning, and for whoever ends up at this workshop with the new stuff. We could focus on that development flex piece to make sure that everybody understands it.
Yeah, and I think that opens it up for more developers to come in. It gives them a flexibility to be able to play with, knowing that once they do it and they bring it to us and we approve it, they can't make any changes.
Okay.
And that's been a problem.
And so that's the part that I like. No changes, okay?
They
And
can, but they have to come back.
back here, okay, and I think that might open up some opportunities, okay, depending upon what goes on, because there's some larger areas that need to be developed or have potential developed in town.
I think you'll find once you do one or two of these that you'll think that it's a lot easier than doing a PUD development when you're dealing with concept plan approvals, and then you're dealing with general plan approvals, and then you're dealing with preliminary approvals. It's PUD ordinances have a wide range of approval processes, and this is just so much easier to me as a staff member, having used it for 24 years, and developers understood it very easily. But I understand that cities like what they like, and if a PUD ordinance is something that you'd rather have, you'd have to work with your staff to create that.
Daniel's part of your concern, what was raised last meeting with Flex, and some of the comments that were made.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Part of it is also that we are going to be rapidly developing as well. And it just seemed like this development flex is like, developer can come in and say, I want to do this, so I'll give you this. And if the current council or the current, zoning commission finds that a positive thing, then this automatically goes through, or it would go through. So it seems like a tit for tat situation that could occur. That would be my concern, my fear of having a developmental flex zone, but
I think the difference is on the PUDs though, they come through, they're gonna tell us this, then it gets approved. But
They can
They can
change.
change it after the fact and it doesn't come back. There's a lot of changing that.
Yeah, your PUD ordinance does that exactly now, Commissioner Spring.
And that's,
Uh,
that's, this is.
It's
trying
a,
to-
that's what a PUD process is. It's a give and take.
Okay,
If they want smaller lot sizes, then they're gonna have to give you something, and maybe that's a buffer area. Maybe that's a 100-foot setback between the R1 residential and the slightly smaller lot sizes that they might want to create. Or if they're putting in a where the keep in mind your land use still comes into play here too. That doesn't change anything.
okay,
So, but that's, I mean, it could happen today. This process isn't creating something that can't already happen within your ordinance. It's just making it easier.
okay,
I think it gives us more control. You know, to make sure that this is what it's gonna be like and look like, and these are the materials that are gonna be used, and this is, so at least we know versus what could happen. So when you were looking at the Hamilton, they were looking at three different phases that they were gonna go through, and they said they were gonna do the first one, but they're not gonna give us any idea what they're gonna do a second, third, even though it was on there. They could change it at any time because they were gonna sell the property. Okay, to do the rest of it, this would keep everything confined, that at least we know what that whole development's gonna look like, and we like the look of it,
sure,
you know, to get it to go in. So
okay. I appreciate that explanation, Jim and Lori, so,
It's not for the faint of heart, these processes. It's not. I'll be the first to admit it, and it's not very exciting, and it's tedious. And so I understand that there's lots of questions.
no, I'm just trying to do my due diligence.
Oh,
by
yeah.
Of course, absolutely.
Daniel, you really are.
No, it's good to ask.
100%.
Um, understanding that there's a definite learning curve, I know city staff, but I don't know how well city staff are versed with their current development process and the PUD process. So I think we've got a lot of new staff members, and having this opportunity to train everybody from the ground up is gonna be to our advantage.
Yes. Agree with that.
And we do have, like I said, we've got some budget set in there for training hours. One of the other things that we had asked is that we have some packets basically made that figure out what our top couple things are that our residents come into town, come into the office to do. And City Hall can pass them a packet. Here, you wanna put in a new roof, here's your packet. You want, and we can go back and we can pull all the permits and say, here's the top things that people have done. There's a swimming pool packet, here's the new roof packet, here's the new house packet, here's the, whatever it might be. Development flex might be a bit bigger, and that's one that would be a conversation. But so what
Not
do you
everybody's
do?
gonna be pulling it either.
No, I don't.
So, and those are out there now for permits on what they
Yeah.
can pull along the side.
Right.
You know, in the hall, so.
So I think that'll be, and I think that one I would leave up to the city staff to tell them, what do people come in for the most? And we can just say, yep, that makes sense. They're gonna be the ones that are there day to day, knowing what's coming through. And they're the ones I really wanna make sure that we've got training for them and for us too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but them and Jason are gonna be, as our zoning administrator, answering a lot of questions and hopefully this makes it much more searchable and usable because it will be ultimately a single document that you can find words
Yes,
and search words. And the definitions have been brought up into this century of food trucks and touch phones and smartphones. A lot of this was written when we did not have smartphones and you couldn't access things during the middle of the meeting online, so. So right now what I'm hearing is R1 14,000, that would be a change. R2 would be a 14,000 for multifamily, 10,000 single family. You did talk about not moving forward with the development flex.
I can, I'll take that back.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
'Cause we
yeah. No, we had a good
We do
discussion. but
wanna
that's
make sure
the
we-
one.
I would make sure that we know that when we do our training, we do wanna put some focus time on the development flex for sure.
Sure.
We passed on the sidewalks because it is covered for all the new developments would have sidewalks. We did talk about and discuss trees. We did talk about step down, but instead of doing step down, we did bump up the sizes. Other,
Is there, yeah, no, I was just gonna ask for clarity on that, Kathy, because I know when we were talking about the additional 2,000 from what we talked about in the last, in the lot sizes, that transitional or step down, moving away from anything there. The only question I have is in the situation where one of the guest keys were, you know, in different areas in the town where there's already bigger lot sizes, is it worthwhile talking about something where it's already butting up to somebody that's been here in town? And maybe not, but I'm at least gonna ask the question. But to the, not to make you roll your eyes again,
No,
but
no, you're
talking
good.
about me from 14,000 to 15,000, is this something where there's an opportunity or consideration of current, and again, the current lot size down to that 14,000, at least kind of a buffer there? I don't know, it's
I
just a,
disagree.
it's just a thought, because again, I get it, we did all this, we're doing this now, there's septic, there's all these different things, but I heard loud and clear last meeting, people didn't move to this city for city septic. So it was for kind of the aesthetics and things we have now, so it's, just a question I wanna ask.
So if the,
Feel free to disagree. I'm
yeah,
just
so
asking.
if a DF comes in, okay, and you're doing that, then you have a right to say at that time you wanna have larger lot sizes that there are there, but coming up to where the other new or older residential areas are, you know, so you can, you know, more or less say that that's what you need to have, so I think it could give you that flexibility with that. Am I wrong with that, Lori?
If it would come here, if,
No, you're not wrong.
Flex has gotta come.
Yeah, it all depends on the situation, you know? If you've got, are you going to care if somebody has a 28,000 square foot lot next to a 20,000 square foot lot? If that 28,000 square foot lot gets subdivided into two 14,000 square foot lots? Are you going to care? I mean, are residents going to care?
I think that's where we did talk about the 20,000, if you split it into 2 10s, that people would notice that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's tiny. And that's our current every lot in theory, not some of the older ones, but 20,000 was our old minimum.
And again, always keep in the back of your mind your density allotments in your comp plan. Somebody's not going to come in a residentially zoned district and be able to plop down an apartment building or a duplex if it's not allowed in your comp plan. So you've got two things working for you there, your lot sizes and your comp plan designations.
One of the other interesting things were, when I was talking to some of the other council people, they turned around and dropped lot sizes in some of their developments that they had. It didn't change the size of the house. The houses were still big houses on small lots.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what they do, right? The developer makes more money.
Less for your kids to mow,
Yeah.
or your neighbor kids to mow.
Think that the step down could continue to be a conversation for council for sure. I think that
Totally agree.
that could totally be
And that's completely up to council if they wanna
um
do something there.
The other Chair, the other thing to consider is that, you know, you leave it as I think you're recommending to increase the lot sizes a little bit and change the R2 and live with it for a year and see what happens. If you're finding out that this is a problem, then you take another look at it.
I think within a year, we could have a lot of houses, but
so,
but yeah, cause so for me, the way that I would have worded like a step down would be an average of the lot sizes in proximity. So it wouldn't be like the largest lot, but it would be an average of the lot sizes on there. Because you could have a 8 acre lot that's abutting and
Right.
everybody else has got 3/4 of an acre. So that step down would then have to start at the average of that. That's how in my mind that would be worded, but
So if you have an 8 acre lot and it's 3/4 acres or lots surrounding it, those 3/4 acre lots couldn't split? Or they could? Cause right now they'd be able to split into two 14,000, cause
Well, we say that in theory, so sublots, for example, my lot is just under an acre, but there's no way you could humanly possibly split my lot to let a driveway and another
well,
house.
that's the other piece. You've gotta,
So,
your setbacks from the edges
Right.
are still gonna have to be at play.
correct,
You're gonna have to have a buildable lot that you could split off, and it might not be a buildable lot.
right. So just because they meet that footage doesn't mean there are a lot that can be split. There's probably less that can be split than what
Than
could
we
be,
think.
so.
Cause you'd still have the side and the different setbacks from the houses and.
Right.
Good point. I'm okay with council if they want to have further discussions on that, or that makes,
And I think that the step down that you were saying, Daniel, is important. I do. I think
Yeah,
that
but how
it's
is it
got,
done?
yeah, I don't know how to
How is it
word
done
it, but,
properly, right?
but the concept I agree with.
Without creating a completely new R zone and saying, you know, R1 is gonna stay exactly how it is.
but really
Today.
all these, every zone you have, that's what zoning is. It's your R1, R2, R3.
Yeah.
Gradually, each one steps. I mean, that's what it is. And even.
So, yeah, sorry, Kathy, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
Let's
go
take
ahead.
the example of the 8 acre lot surrounded by 3/4 acre homes and lots. If they're not gonna split that 8 acres into lots that are 14,000 square foot in size to match the zoning that it would be, then they would have to go through development flex. Knowing what I know about you, and we'll see what the council says, if I were the planner, I would tell that developer that you've got to make the lots around the edge of this development flex district larger. And the rest, we can look at smaller lots. But that's the give and take, because the city council has the ultimate discretion in rezoning this property to DF. They don't have to do it. If they're not supportive of that lot size, the developer, it's in the developer's best interest to do what the city wants. And so they can flat out say no. Because with a rezoning, you have a lot of discretion, unlike something like a conditional use permit in a straight zoning district.
So I guess I'm not as concerned about the DF coming in with the fact that it would be coming to council and P and Z. It would be all of the older R1 homes with the huge lots who then would have the new R1 minimum immediately adjacent to them. That's why the step down for me makes sense, is to go from what was built into what can be built, if that makes sense.
So let me ask you with the drain field, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not next to your house, but it's gonna be across the street from your house, let's say, okay. Would the 14 change, or would you say that should be a step down? Just out of curiosity.
No, that's a good point, but that would be one of those things that you wouldn't want for, like, that community wouldn't want 14,000 square foot
No,
lots
they wanna have
within, but
people
it's
who-
zoned as R1, so somebody can come in and do that. They don't have to do the development flex. They can jump in, say it meets R1 or 14,000 square feet, or even 15,000 square feet, which is still well under half of what most of the lots would be around it.
But could you do it as a step down, going that direction, saying that it's gotta be a step down because it's across the street?
Yeah, I mean, in this scenario, there would if you stepped it down, you'd end up with one house maybe in the middle that would be at the 14,000 square feet, right? But that's not the case for all lots. Like, I see what your point is, but
No, I'm just, you've got a good idea. I'm just trying to figure out how to work all this stuff together.
Yeah.
Okay.
some of these places are going to be protected by neighborhood covenants already, right? So the River Park Drain Field has a covenants. It's already got a minimum lot size built into it. So something like that isn't necessarily, you're not gonna have, a developer come in and wanna put smaller lots in there. But very, very easily, anywhere on the fringe of Orinoco that has houses on the fringe could get that. If you're looking at a big field, there's stuff on the west side that have very large lots that, there's fields that will eventually be developed, and if they go from R1 to the new R1 14,000 square feet, it's a significant change from one house to the very next.
We see a difference, like where I'm at, and I'm in an older neighborhood. Okay, Kathy lives in a newer neighborhood that there is that's really close by. And if you look at River Bend, and if you had everything that would be a new development that was similar to what a River Bend is, I think it's very attractive and very functional for what goes on. Just the way the houses are set a little bit differently in there, okay?
Towns are at, a quarter acre and 14,000 feet
Have
is
you
still
been
a
over
third
by
of an
River
acre.
Bend and looked at the difference on how it is, how it flips in there?
So I guess specifically speaking, I've been in some of the houses that kind of meet this criteria would be the southern houses on Riverwood Court, the western houses on Riverwood Drive, southwest. Some of those other houses that are adjacent to this field that's here that, eventually could be Sunnyview Lane, those homes, including Cedar Woodlands. And then, that looks like pretty much that for the south side of town, but that's a lot of homes that would be, that could have much smaller lots built into their right adjacent to them.
We have a unique community that we'd like to stay unique.
Yes.
There's a reason why we're out here and we pay the extra money to be out here. And so I don't think we wanna, ruin what we've got. And I don't think you got some of the larger lots that are out there that people might wanna subdivide, but as a whole, I don't think people really wanna instantly subdivide, saying that they could have a smaller lot.
No, and I'm not worried about subdividers per se. I'm worried about
Developers.
a full development coming in to
Established neighborhood.
basically right on the edge of an established neighborhood.
Yep.
That's where the step down makes sense.
No, and I agree with that. It's but how, again, it's a wording on how do you put that in for that part of it. You could control it again if it was going with the other, what do we call that? The DF, these are the flex. You could do that,
Yeah.
and just say that they have to be larger going next to existing, properties that they're on the outskirts.
The simplest way would be to have the step down go from the minimum required right now, which would be the step down. So regardless of what the house and lot size is surrounding, it's a step down from the 20,000 square foot minimum. I don't know that solves the issue, but that would be the easiest
And so you'd be
verbiage
going,
for sure.
from 20 to 14.
You'd be doing you'd be doing one road 20, then you could go to the 14.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know that there's a,
I don't know, the 20 is, to me, still when you had your full septic, you had your field in there and you've got the extra space in there, but you don't have to have that field in a lot of the areas where you have it, you've got, you've got to have the buildable land to begin with too on those. And just because you've got the space doesn't mean you can hit the setback and that you can hit all these other things that are still there. You can't build right up to the property line. You can't, I don't know.
And the developers have to make money too.
right.
You know, I mean, you can't be so restrictive that they can't make any money, so.
And we're already would be bigger minimum lot sizes than some communities, even with 14,000.
And if there's roads involved, the developer's gonna wanna recoup that cost because they're the ones installing the road and not the city. And the utilities.
Well, I think that it's been a good discussion. I mean, I'm comfortable moving forward to council. As with the R1, R2 discussion that we've had. I think that we'll probably discuss
You'll
the
have-
step down by then.
Absolutely.
And if we,
Do some more.
hopefully we have some examples or verbiage that make it so it makes sense or be easier to deal with, but because you're right, the developers have to want to come in and develop. They have to want to, they've got to be able to make money. So,
And we want to keep the city looking the way it
and
does.
we want to keep the city the way, and we don't want to continue to raise taxes because there are residents moving in here. So there's lots of things. So I'm comfortable with moving if we don't have any more
So the-
discussion points.
The changes I have right now would just be in the R1 zone, changing the minimum lot size to 14,000. And then in the R2, changing the lot sizes to 14,000 if it's multifamily or 10,000 if it's single family. Those would be the two changes that we would send along with all the other stuff that's been done. And we push it to council for them to have their discussion and then they can yay or nay our decision.
Yeah.
Or they can yay or nay our decision and make more changes. I mean, that's up to them at that point.
A step down discussion would take place at council then.
Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
I think that's.
that would give you
should
more time
happen.
to do some digging.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion anyone wants to make that would include the 14,000 for R1 and the 14 and 10,000?
You want to do it, or you want me to?
I'll make the motion to approve the ordinances with the changes to R1, minimum lot size 14,000 square feet. R2, minimum lot size for a single family home decreases to 10,000 feet while the multifamily stays the same at 14,000.
Yeah.
So approval of this whole stuff with those couple more changes.
I'll second
And
that.
then second that, and so just so everybody's clear, approval of this would not put it in stone yet. It makes it go to council where they can have their further discussions and then yay or nay or yay and nay and change stuff.
Mhm.
So with that, any last discussion or I will call the vote here on this one. All in favor of all the zoning stuff with those two other sectional changes and moving it on to council for their approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this does move to council then. And Lori, can you take care of updating those changes? So the R1 would have 14,000, the R2 would have the 14 and 10?
Yes.
That would be fantastic.
I don't know that this will be this month's council meeting.
It's a lot
Right,
for council to read.
Well, it's coming up on Tuesday.
Right, so we've already got
It will
so
probably
it
be,
will not be the 16th.
Right.
council will have to
The
have,
other ones we voted on earlier would go.
Right.
yes,
council.
those will go to
Yeah,
This
council.
one, I would recommend you wait a month and then
Yes.
give you all the time to read it.
And then Lori, will there still be opportunity for feedback from residents to get to council then? Or does that,
I mean, you can leave it, we can leave it open. We only got one more since the planning commission meeting, so I don't know how many more you'd get if you left the Growing Orinoco open, but it's always up on, I can make the changes and get you a new PDF so you can put the new after your recommendation. We can put that up on your website and just have people submit their comments to Jason.
yep, that would be
Yeah, I
that,
think just submit to Jason instead of
yeah.
through the website then.
Let's put
One
Can we-
big master PDF out there.
Can we put
You lose interest.
please submit
Real
a
quick.
week prior to the
This makes
Meeting for
sense.
meeting for Jason?
Mm-hmm.
And we've already had the public hearing, so the opportunity where people have to submit comments for a public hearing, but people can still continue. We can
Sure.
put that out
Okay.
there. Just like people can submit comments to him on anything that's on your packets, really.
Okay.
But yes, we could put a cover sheet on top of the PDF that says something to that effect.
I think we also put, I'd have to check. I did a summary memo for you for last month's meeting, and I think that also went on the growingorinoco.com. So if people wanted to look at the major changes, they could just skim through that without having to read the whole thing. So we'll send that to council again for them to review, but obviously encourage them to read the whole thing, no matter how boring that might be.
All right.
And then I would encourage anybody to reach out with questions before then too, so we can get those answered.
All right. Thank you so much, Lori. Appreciate.
This is a monumental day.
Yeah.
Lori,
Hundreds and
would
hundreds
you
of pages.
prefer, if council members have questions, do you want those to be funneled through Jason to you, or do you want any of the 5 of us just to email you directly? How do you want to?
You can certainly email me directly and Jason, unless Jason has another
I think
preference.
that'd be
So,
easier, because we'll just get it to her and she'll have it. Yeah, otherwise it could get delayed.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Good call.
I'm usually pretty quick at responding, other than the one that I missed from you, Commissioner Spring. I'm sorry about that.
We saw it, yeah, you're good.
All right. Well, unless you want to stick around for our next new business lockbox discussion, you can go take your time and
Go home.
I'm gonna go home.
dream about square footage.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We've got moving into new business finally. I just wanted to throw out there on the lock boxes. So I don't know if everybody knows what a lock box is. Some of them, there's different brands, like a Knox box is a lock box. But what they are, you see them more with commercial properties, the ability to have a box on site. So if there is an emergency and a fire truck or first responders need to get in, there's a way that they can access that property without having to break down doors. So that's essentially what lock boxes are. Now there are not commercial, but residential customers that also could have lock boxes. A lot of times you might see senior citizens. There's a program through the Senior Citizens for Orinoco and Pine Island through their senior citizen program where there might be funding, I don't know, but they could have lock boxes, but you have to coordinate with the different area first responder groups too. So I know that is something that Jason had done a little bit of research on, and we can require them for commercial customers. We could do different things. We don't necessarily even have to do it through a zoning statute of any kind. But that was a question that had come up, and I think it would be up to like Dan as the fire chief if he wanted to put something together to require them for new businesses, for example. And that's not uncommon for municipalities to require that.
No, I know they've been talking to commercial places and some said yes, and there's some that are out there, but some of them haven't followed up on it. So if they get their door broken in or knocked down, it's because next time they'll put a box on.
Yeah.
Common sense says yes.
So that's how, okay, next. I'm ready to go home.
Yep, and so, then we did get a request from Marie, if we wanna have some type of workshop. You may know more on that, but it looks like there were a couple different choices she had thrown out there, and I don't know if those dates work for any of you. But,
I'm not that far out in my calendar.
so
Are you in November?
November,
Not yet.
they are all Wednesday nights, and I know one of those I probably am not even gonna be in the state. Cause I'll be at a conference potentially, but I'm not sure yet on Wednesday nights there.
Okay, we can think about those.
So maybe we'll just push that to next month and we'll talk about it then. And then buzzing our way through old business. Open position, there's nobody here currently to interview, but if they do know of anybody who wants to volunteer their time, we are through the hardest part, which was hundreds and hundreds of pages. And this is probably the latest meeting we've had in a long time, so I do appreciate y'all sticking around.
I do know there are a couple of people considering.
Excellent.
Yes, so I will,
What I will do is have hard copies of the application form at the next meeting, so if anybody's interested, they can fill one out there and interview right then, and we can submit it to council.
They don't even have to wait that long. They can submit it to Jason.
Ahead of time.
Ahead of time. He'll give it to
This much.
And
so,
$35.
If they're on the
per
fence.
meeting.
Just if they're on the fence, we don't usually go this late.
Per meeting.
so I get a finder's fee.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. But you worked that out with them.
so yes.
Don't tell them, folks.
Next month, if we have anybody, we'll look at, that will just stay there until we permanently have somebody to interview. Officer position, consider that as well.
I
Talked
just said
about
that, I talked to you on that, so.
So maybe once we get fully staffed, we'll take a look at that again. We did cover briefly minutes of prior meetings, so that should be coming at some point. We did include in the packet this month, they did get us,
AI, what can you say?
hey,
You gotta get the raw files first.
yes, monthly incoming zoning applications and questions. I think we look at that for this month, and if we have discussion next month, it's just fine.
I looked at that.
And then long-term, we've still got just sitting out there, no new news
Nothing on
for
the
me on
driveway.
the driveway, nothing that I know on any
Peoples.
development.
Yeah.
And I have not had time to get to the RFP, so that is also a future.
Okay, I'll table that one.
So that will be next month.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, please.
Second.
Oh, he beat
Got it, got it.
first, second. We'll give you that one there.
Good.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let's go home. All right, 8:52.
Thank you all for the conversation tonight.
And good things, Daniel.